Senator Joe Manchin looking to strike a deal with Speaker McCarthy to rein in all the wasteful government spending. But first, the powerful Democrat appears to be dropping hints about his political future. Listen.
You run for office in 2024. You going to run as a Democrat?
Chuck, I haven't made a decision what I'm going to do in 2024. I've got 2 years ahead of me now to do the best I can for the state and for my country. When I make my decision, what I think is the best that I can support and represent the people of West Virginia, but also be true to this country and the Constitution of this country.
That sounds like somebody that's looking for a way into national politics.
I'm telling you that I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that when I make my decision, I make it based on what's best.
Here to react, Fox News contributor and author of that book right there, Defeating Big Government Socialism, Newt Gingrich. Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's great to be with you.
It's always good to have you on. What are his chances of running? What are the chances that he'll run for president or that he would stay a senator but switch parties?
Well, I think it's very hard to switch parties if you've spent your entire lifetime either as a Republican or a Democrat. My good friend Zoe Miller spoke at the Republican convention in 2004, endorsed George W. Bush, just couldn't quite bring himself to leave the Democratic Party where he'd earned a living his whole life. So Manchin has a lot of ties. On the other hand, I think Manchin has seen the Democratic Party go further and further to the left, further away from the values of West Virginia. And I suspect he's a serious guy. And I thought it was a very important signal that he called Speaker McCarthy and said, you know, you're right. We ought to be negotiating. Let's find a way to cut spending and work together. So I don't want to prejudge what he'll do. It'd be very hard for him to win a Democratic nomination because he's so much more conservative than the current Democratic Party. But he would be a significant force in the country. And I think he's a serious man. He wants to make a difference. And I think this is a big first step. And if he has a few other people, like Senator Sinema, for example, from Arizona, all of a sudden there could be sort of a Kevin McCarthy alliance with common sense senators that could really make a big difference.
He does have that likability factor, and he is moderate, so he could get some of the independents and maybe some conservatives as well, depending on who's running in the Republican Party. What do you think this looks like when he's going to meet with McCarthy? They say they're going to try to come up with a plan together to stop this government wasteful spending. What does that look like? Can they do this?
Well, I mean, first of all, there's a lot of money out there that has never been spent.
Right.
That was passed during the COVID emergency period. And I suspect you can get hundreds of billions of dollars just by not spending it. There's also an amazing amount, I think over $600 billion was stolen during the COVID period, $20 billion in California unemployment alone. And I suspect recapturing, clawing back some of that would be a piece of it. And then frankly, you can just go through a list of what the government spends money on. We have a multi-million-dollar project, for example, to improve Tunisian tourism. Now, why would the American taxpayer, at a time of a huge deficit, want to send millions of dollars to Tunisia? I mean, I understand, improving tourism in Florida or improving tourism in California, but why are we encouraging people to go to Tunisia instead of the U.S.?
I don't know. How does that happen?
There are dozens of programs like that we can cut.
Does that even get into our budget?
You have bureaucrats who are paid full-time to do nothing but sit around and think of ways to spend money. They think they're being very creative. They've been assigned the job of helping these countries, and so they come up with whatever they can think of. But we have, if you were to go through the list of things we pay for, both at home and abroad, that are nonsense, you could save billions of dollars. And remember, every dollar you save today is multiplied over the next 10 years by the interest you're not paying on the debt, because you didn't spend the money. So it actually has a multiplier effect that's bigger than, say, if I save $1 billion, I've probably saved about $1.3 billion over the next 10 years. I think in the House Republican Party, there's a huge commitment to a balanced budget. And I think that Senator Manchin is the first break moving towards helping Speaker McCarthy achieve that.
Thank you so much for coming on, Mr. Speaker.
Great. Glad to be with you.
Thanks.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.